guys, Jordan in the Know here with the Moto 360, 3 months after original release. And I usually wait until the 6-month mark to make a review, but there's so much to talk about and there's so much that's changed already that I wanted to make the video sooner than later. So this is the day 1 OG Moto 360, meaning that I ordered it the first hour that it was available, and this was one of the first few off the assembly and onto my doorstep. And I've been using it on the daily ever since. Now, since it's a watch, the face is always exposed to damage and outside forces, and I have to say that I'm pretty impressed at how it held up. I'm usually pretty careful with my devices, but getting micro scratches and nicks is pretty much inevitable. So most of those scratches can only be seen in the light, and they just happen over time, but the nicks here are a little different. While Gorilla Glass may be scratch resistant, it will not protect against concrete. Now, I don't just go around bashing my watch against walls. This was strictly an accident, and these are the damages that you see from being grazed against a wall, and you can only see it from certain angles as well, but I'm pretty impressed considering what it's been through. So I'm also pleased to report that the housing on the Moto 360 has held up pretty well, and if there were any worries about how this watch would hold up, it would be specifically in the black model because there's just a coat of paint over the metal. But the overall housing is in pristine condition with the exception of some scratches towards the top, but that's 100% my own fault. The way that I walk and turn around corners, I always seem to just graze whatever wall is next to me, and they just happen to always be brick surfaces. As for the display, a lot of people are complaining about how it's low res with only 205 pixels per inch, but in my opinion it's perfectly fine. The Moto 360 is only for quick snippets of information, and Android Wear is perfect for displaying notifications large enough so you don't have to squint to see them. It's not like we're watching movies, and I'm rarely playing games on my watch, so there's honestly no need for a higher resolution display. And one last thing about the display, it's slightly raised above the rest of the body, which doesn't seem to be an issue, and the best part is the slight incline along the edges that give it an awesome appearance and a chamfered edge kind of look, compared to if they just left it at a dull, weird looking 90-degree angle. But it can be a double-edged sword because of the fact that dust likes to get in between the glass and the housing, but at least it's easy to clean. Since we're talking about housing though, I have to say that there are some unimpressive things about the 360, and I'll let you off light and let you know that the leather watch band is gonna have to be replaced eventually. The bottom line is that it feels premium and is perfect, 100% perfect for a stock band. It's high quality, the original real smell of leather is just amazing. But the real issue lies in long-term use. The part with the notches starts to wrinkle and not look as new, which is a given and is bound to happen since leather does wear. But the worst part has to be the smell. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a pretty clean guy, but after wearing it every day for a few months during exercises and all hours of the day, the once new smelling leather starts to acquire a foul smell like dirt and dead skin. And it really does start to get pretty gross. Now, I didn't just find this out by just smelling my band one day. The way that I rest my head against my arm puts the band right under my nose, and you really seriously can't help but catch a whiff. So if you end up grabbing the Moto 360, plan on purchasing a few bands for the long run. And that's a perfect segue to talk about the other thing I don't like about the 360, custom watch bands. So for starters, Motorola says that you can put any standard 16 to 22 millimeter watch band in your watch. But if you see the leather band here, there's a space in the center that's sort of indented, and there's a corresponding piece of plastic that sits inside the Motorola 360 housing that stops you from putting any old band on. Now, I fixed this issue by just taking a small metal prying tool and digging those plastic pieces out, and now I can put any band I want, and it's really great. But the second huge issue with custom bands is that it seems like any band that isn't Motorola made will just crack the plastic back. Now, this crack that you see here first originated when I put the Pebble Seal watch band on a few months ago, even before I decided to take that metal tool and take the plastic pieces out. And the strange part is, it doesn't affect the watch in any way, talking about the crack anyway. It just looks like it cracks to allow more flexibility, and even when it comes to waterproofing, it still doesn't seem to be affected and works as normal. So even though the hardware has suffered some significant changes, I have to say that the software has too, and the two most drastic things that you're going to find different about the software is battery life and performance. When the Moto 360 first debuted, the battery life lagged far behind the rest of the competition and would usually die before the day was even up. In those early days of the Moto 360, it would die at about 9 hours of just normal use. But after a few updates and optimizations, it can easily last to around 25 to even 26, and by that time, I'm already asleep and the Moto 360 is on the charger, and you can expect the same improvements when ambient mode is on. Before any of these updates, the battery used to last till about 9 hours with ambient mode on, but now it can last till about 15. Performance also benefited from those updates, and where we used to have laggy and clumsy performances, we now have responsive and smooth animations, all at 60 frames per second, and things don't nearly stutter as they used to feel, and this feels more like a watch that I can actually use instead of an old buggy accessory. The 360 is a useful tool as well, and above all else, the recent updates to how it handles notifications has improved the most. Now, when you swipe away notifications, you have a few seconds to cancel the action. You can also hide notifications so your watch face can be full screen, and my personal favorite is that if you're running Lollipop on your phone, you can set the 360 to prioritize notifications. So if you're in an annoying group chat and don't want your wrist buzzing every 5 seconds, you can set the notifications to priority mode and it'll just go from there. On top of that, you'll get some smaller features like sunlight mode and theater mode. Voice recognition has been improved, but one thing that bothers me is the whole way that the watch and the phone communicate, and I've come to see a pattern. You can use the normal OK Google command to start Google Now, but when you speak your command, it accesses the internet, most likely Google servers, to recognize what you say, and then it executes the command. Seems like a good idea, but when the internet isn't on 4G or higher, the command will just time out. So as you can tell, I'm a really big fan of the Moto 360, and one more thing that's really important, another reason why I really like the Moto 360, is that they priced it to sell. They could easily have priced this at $400 or $450 like they could have done because they knew a lot of people wanted it, and even furthermore, a lot of us thought that they were going to do that, but they didn't. They impressed me by pricing it at $250, which is a super competitive price compared to the other less nice looking smartwatches, and I'm really happy with my purchase. So let me know in the comments if you guys are still impressed with the Moto 360, because I am, so I want to hear if you guys are too. This has been Jordan in the Know, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.